Hello, and welcome to Freshwaves. I'm your host, Bren Masson. Today, we'll be having part 2 of our organ donation awareness series that runs for the month of April, as April is Organ Donation Awareness Month in Canada. Our technical producer, Jason Rumball, is a kidney recipient, and he brought the idea of doing these shows to my attention several years ago. Since then, the stories that I have heard are incredible. And it's important during Organ Donation Awareness Month to share these stories with you, the listeners, to spread the word about organ donation. Organ recipients living wonderful, fulfilled lives, being moms, dads, grandparents, friends, aunts, uncles, cousins, cherished individuals, living wonderful lives, appreciating every day as the blessing that it truly is because someone gave the gift of life by being an organ donor. If you haven't done so already, please go to beadonor.ca and sign up to be an organ donor. A minister I once knew said to me, "Heaven doesn't need your organs. We need them here on earth, so please leave them behind when you go." Today, we will hear from two incredible women, Nancy and Lisa. Lisa is a kidney and pancreas recipient. Nancy lost her 10-year-old son, Ryan, unexpectedly. She and her husband made the decision to donate Ryan's organs. Here are their stories. We'll start with Lisa and her story with battling kidney disease as a result of diabetes. Lisa, you were on the transplant list for a kidney.
I'm a diabetic, so since the age of 4, and I'm insulin dependent, meaning I'm a type 1 diabetic. So I always knew that with diabetes come many complications, and over the years I've had many things happen to me. For instance, I'm blind in my left eye, but my right eye is strong enough so I'm able to drive and whatnot. So they've always checked my kidneys to make sure that's basically one of the higher percentages of people that usually have kidney failure are from diabetes, or kidney failure is also from other illnesses as well, that it can be hereditary or other causes. I'll word it that way. So they checked my kidney over the years, and I kept saying, you know what, this is ridiculous. I went through my teenage years. I wasn't a real party girl, like I didn't smoke or drink like people think, or I wasn't exactly what we call your perfect diabetic. And when I say that is, it's not the food I ate, it's not related to any of that. It's due to the fact that I'd sleep when I wanted, took my insulin when I wanted, and had a really relaxed life. So in 1995, they said, your kidney function is rising. And I'm like, I know nothing about this. So what is this all about? And they said, well, you have two choices. You can look for a living related donor. They use living. Now, it can be a family member, or it can be a friend or someone that matches. And
sometimes a stranger is a match. A complete
stranger, yep. Or you can go on dialysis. And I didn't know anything about dialysis as well. So they explained the different types of dialysis, which are hemo and peritoneal. And at that time, you couldn't do it at night. You had to go to the hospital 3 times a day, an evening, a week, thank you. Or you have to do peritoneal, where it goes into your peritoneal cavity. So I said, no, I don't think this is what I want. So fortunately my mother was able to donate her kidney to me, and I kept postponing the transplant. I was young. I was in my 30s, maybe late 20s. I don't know anymore my age. And I said, you know what? I have girlfriends getting married. I have baby showers. I have things to do. So I actually postponed my surgery. So when it came down to it, about 6 weeks previous, I had to go on emergency dialysis, where they put a line in your neck. It's a hemodialysis, and you attach to a machine 3 times a week. And that was so I was strong enough to do the surgery. So the day of the operation, there was actually a snowstorm to top it all off. And unfortunately, my mother's kidney didn't work. So I had been asked previously if I wanted...
Like they did the surgery and then found out it didn't work?
Yeah, due to blood flow.
Oh!
But I had been asked previously that there's a new transplant coming out in Toronto, and this was in December of 95, if I wanted to go on that list, and that would be a kidney and a pancreas. So I'd no longer have diabetes, and I'd no longer have to go on dialysis. And I said at the time, because my mother was going to donate, I said, no, I'll take my mother's. But as soon as my mother's failed, I said, put me on this list. This is just what I want. So I was put on the list. I was actually then put on peritoneal dialysis. I did that 4 to 5 times a day for just about a year. And then in May of 1997, I received a call. And I'm going to let Nancy take over from here.
Well, May 1st, 1997, my 10-year-old son, Ryan, got up one morning getting ready for school, and all of a sudden complained he had a very bad headache. And he said, I'm going to go upstairs and lie down. And so when I got up there, I realized this was not a normal headache. He said, Mom, you got to get me to the hospital. And his dad happened to be home that day. We rushed him up to South Lake, where, he's unconscious by the time he got there. And
Wow.
we, rushed him in, and we heard them calling Code Blue pediatric. We knew it was for Ryan, Wow. And so they sent him down to sick kids. And by 3 o'clock in the afternoon, the doctor came to us and told us he was brain dead. And he'd had what they called a vascular malformation. So probably when he was born with weak vessels in his brain, and one of them just burst, kind of like an aneurysm, and bled into the brain, and there was really nothing they could do. The doctor said there was nothing they could do. Would we consider organ donation? And his dad and I just looked at each other and said, yes, that's what Ryan would have wanted. It was a month before that he had been signing his donor card when the insurance and the license came, I guess. And Ryan had walked into the room in grade 4. They're very curious about everything. And he was a bright kid, very beyond his years. And walked in, and what are you doing, Dad? And he explained all about organ donation, and he'd always signed his card. I had never signed my card. I thought about it, but never done it. And once he told him all about it, he just bounced out of the room and came, of course, to ask me if I knew anything about organ donation and how good it was and how you could save people's lives. And then over the next month, he proceeded to go to all the members of the family he could and ask them if they signed their donor card. So when the doctor asked us that, we knew, that was what he'd want to do. And, there could have been some child in the next floor that needed organs. And he helped to save 11 people, or helped them to have a better life.
Wow.
So Lisa received a kidney pancreas, which, it's all anonymous, and it's just a fluke that we know each other. And
Nancy wrote a letter. I'll clarify this. Nancy wrote a letter. Basically, I had written a letter to Nancy and Dale, and they had written back to me.
And but you're writing this not knowing that who the other person is.
No, it goes through Trillium Gift of Life. It is all anonymous. It goes in envelopes, and basically, if you wish to open it, it's a big procedure, really. But what had happened is, and I hate to say this, that Trillium Gift of Life didn't screen my letter very well. So what they did was, I felt like I was a school child. They took liquid paper, and they liquid papered part of it on one side, but didn't liquid paper it on the opposite side, so I could read what Nancy had written in the letter to me, so I could put information together. So, long story short,
the names have been changed to protect the innocent.
So when I wrote back and I said, your son Ryan, and we had a conversation, everybody was saying to me, how do you know this? I said, well, I could show you the original letter that you guys only liquid papered on one side that didn't go. So anyways, Nancy had written me a letter, and in the letter was Ryan's a poem that is on Ryan's grave. And basically, I had forgot that it was there. I usually went after work and picked it up because Toronto General was close to where I worked at the time. I used to work for Bell downtown. And I forgot, so I came home and I said to my husband, let's just take a ride after. Well, little did we know that there'd be a news article appearing the next morning in the paper that described the individuals that Ryan saved, and that they were going to receive the gift of life at the Hospital for Sick Children. So I went to work Monday morning, and I basically, I have very good family support and whatnot, and I went to work and I basically said, I'm going over. And they're like, oh, okay. Did you arrange your shift? How are you doing this? No, I'm just leaving for a while. So even my manager at the time was very supportive, and she said, "Do you want me to come?" And I'm like, "No, I think this is something I want to do on my own." I mean, it's a very hard position. Not many people have that opportunity. Is it the right time? So it was very hard to describe, actually, really, and put into words.
But you were going to go over to Sick Kids.
I was going to go over to Sick Kids
and see the ceremony.
And see the ceremony.
A medal that day.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I do this all.
I was just going to say, so we had name tags on because we were going to be going up, and Lisa came and stood beside my husband at the time. Sorry.
Yes.
And she kind of leaned in and she said, "I think I have your son's kidney and pancreas."
That's like, that's what? I might know you more than you think. Something like this as an introduction, and just get right to the point.
It was just like kind of the scene of hugs and disbelief, and it has been a wonderful relationship over the years. We've gone and talked many times, and as I was going to say, I feel very fortunate to have had that opportunity because many people don't get that opportunity. Now, Lisa's letter that I got through Trillium was only one of many, and it's a really wonderful thing to get these letters because, I mean, losing anyone, but losing a child is just devastating, and you don't know how you're going to go on. And 4 months after Ryan passed, I got the first letter, which was from the cornea recipient, a 20-year-old university student who was in the sciences and was now failing because he couldn't see anymore. And he got the cornea, and he was able to resume his studies. And
wow.
Yeah, so that was wonderful. Lisa's was the next one we got, which was amazing. I think they actually missed a screening in Lisa's letter, and her name was actually in it. Just Lisa, only Lisa, nothing else.
Yeah,
which wasn't enough to go on. Which wasn't enough to go on, but and then after that, I got a wonderful letter from a 16-year-old boy who received a double lung transplant. He had cystic fibrosis, and now he was able to play hockey and run and do things he hadn't been able to do, and. A young woman a 40-year-old woman received his liver. So she was able to look after her kids now. And then a 6-year-old girl got his other kidney. And then the 4 heart valves were used as well. So, and and so I guess I decided after getting all these wonderful letters that I wanted people to know what, organ donation could do and how we could help people. So I guess the following year it was Organ Donor Awareness Week, and I decided to write to the papers, the local paper in Aurora, where we were living, and then the Star and the Sun, I guess it was, and the Star. The lady had asked me about the poem. Was there anything inscribed in the tombstone? And I'd said, well, this poem my son had written. And so she put it on the front page of the paper. So Lisa's mom, they matched it from the letter, and they knew for sure everything. Right? That was the other thing that...
Isn't that something? Well, we're going to continue that story when we get back from our first break here. You're listening to Fresh Waves. I'm your host, Bren Masson. We're talking about organ donation for Organ Donation Awareness Month. We will be right back after this short break, so stay tuned.
Hi, this is Jay Rumble, host of The Block Party on Whistle FM. 19 years ago, my sister gave me the greatest gift of all, the gift of life. She donated her kidney to me as mine was failing. I am alive today because of organ donation. April is Organ Donation Awareness Month in Canada. Please go to beadonor.ca and register to be a donor today. That's beadonor.ca.
Hi, this is Bren Masson, host of Fresh Waves. If you'd like to hear this broadcast again, or if you'd like to share it with a friend, you can go to our YouTube channel, Fresh Waves Radio, and you will find all of the Freshwaves podcasts there. Do hit subscribe. We love to have subscribers. This is a really interesting show and a very worthwhile show. As you will hear today, Lisa's story is incredibly compelling. A woman who would have died had she not received a kidney and a pancreas. And the story of Nancy, whose 10-year-old son passed away suddenly, so tragically. Yet, in his passing, she knew that he would want to donate his organs, and his little life saved the lives of many others and improved the lives of even more. Organ donation is an incredible gift. I encourage everyone who has not done so already to go to beadonor.ca and become an organ donor. Leave your organs here on Earth when you pass on. Now let's get back to the show with Nancy and Lisa. You will notice in the background some men laughing, some male voices. Those are Jason Rumball, a kidney recipient, and the voices of Eric and Robbie, who you'll hear from next week. They were in the studio at the same time as these stories were recorded. Let's get back to the show and hear the rest of the story. We're back on Fresh Waves. I'm your host, Bren Masson. This morning we're talking organ donation awareness. And we have a really nice mix of people in the studio this morning because we have a woman who has donated her son's organs because you have to when they're children. You have to, as a parent, you have to sign off on it. They don't have registration for kids. They can't do it on their own.
That's correct. Yes, I believe you have to be 18. And I think the most important thing really is just sharing with family that this is something you want to do, no matter what age you are, to make everyone aware this is really important to you. Because even if you register, I believe it's still family that are asked. They don't do it against their wishes. But knowing that your family has told you this is what you want, I think probably is a really high percentage that actually do it, that do make the donation. And in my case, we knew that's what our son wanted, and it made that decision so automatic and just so much easier, because you want to do what they wanted. You want to help fulfill their wishes, right?
As much as you can. It's a wonderful thing.
Definitely. And when you lose someone you love, you get a lot of comfort, and it helps with your grief to know and to hear things. Trillium Gift of Life does give you reports if you ask about who got your organs.
Right.
Not details of who they are or anything, but just age and how they're doing and who got them, and all that helps to you don't get over the death of a child, but you learn to live with it, and I think you get a lot of comfort through if you are one who's lucky enough to be able to actually do that donation.
I always say to people when people say I'm too old or I have this illness or that, things change dramatically. I mean, when I first was going to have a kidney transplant, my father wasn't allowed to be tested because he had high blood pressure. Well, now that's almost like secondary nature. If you have high blood pressure, you can still give to another high-risk patient, it's called. So I always say when I go do high school talks, which I'm very fond of, where we approach the younger people, I always say, if there is an organ that you wish to not donate, it's better to say that than to say, if you want to donate everything, say it, and at the time they will test you accordingly, be it what illness you may have today, may not be a concern in the future.
Right.
So it's really hard for people to understand.
Or just say you're going to donate and leave it up to the medical professions to take what they want and need.
Right.
They're going to tell you right off anyway, nah, I can't use that one.
That's right.
Yes.
Yeah,
just because tissue is a huge...
Tissue is another huge thing.
Tissue, you could be 89 and in a nursing home, and I believe you get 24 hours to donate, even like corneas. And I'm not sure about skin, but there's a great need for skin for, blood, burn victims and things like that. And so there's other things that you don't have to be in the same position.
Right.
The oldest living tissue donor is over 100, and the oldest living organ donor, I can't speak, is over 90. So there's no age limit. I never want people to say I'm too old or I have an illness. The other day I actually had someone at Service Ontario, really interesting, come up to me and say, I'm a diabetic and have been since I was 4. I looked at her, I go, yeah, okay, so what's the catch here? I said, of course, probably you can't donate your pancreas, and probably you'll have kidney issues of some sort probably in your life, but they look at everything else and say, okay, does she have good lungs, or does she have good skin or eyes or whatnot? And she goes, really? You're the first one that's ever told me that. And I'm like, wow, like just that little bit of education to people. A lot of people don't know, and Trillium Gift of Life has an amazing website with addresses all of the religions. All of the major religions believe in organ donation. So there's a lot of misconceptions that have been out there over the years, and I think we've come a long way. We still have a long way to go, don't get me wrong, but 20 years ago, nobody heard about, or 22 now, nobody heard about organ donation. It was never talked about. Like me even knowing that I may have to have one day, I knew nothing about it. Now it's a whole different ballgame when you get involved and you become part of it, but really, the average person now knows about organ donation, like something, someone, somehow, some way, which we've come a long way, I'll say, in 20 years. Not that I'm pleased where we exactly are today, but let's not go there.
Well, yeah, we should go there. We should go there and say, okay, it's not where we want it to be.
No, it's not.
We hear about this in April. Do you hear about it any other time of the year? Nope. It just drops off the radar. And this is something that, okay, increase awareness in April, but then maintain that increased awareness throughout the rest of the year so that the momentum doesn't die.
I think one of the programs that is really working to do that is the educational program. It's
I think so too.
With the University Health Network, University of Toronto, St. Mike's at Kids. And basically what it does is it takes renal professionals of any sort. They can be doctors, or they can nurses, physiotherapists, across the board, coordinators, and they go out and speak, and they have a presentation that they do, and then they ask recipients, this is one of my favorite things, recipients to tell their story, and then we take questions and whatnot from the audience. Sometimes we do whole schools, which are really nice, because then you get a whole cross-section of feedback. Sometimes they're just science classes, depending what the school wants and needs, but that's a great program, and I suggest very highly, if your school hasn't done it, to speak to Anna Coco at UHN.
Yeah, why not? And get the information that you need and know how to teach it. And you were involved in a teaching exercise like that as well, weren't you? Through the Board of Education.
Yeah, it was aimed at grade 5 to 8 when they were learning about the human body. And because my son was, grade 4 when he passed, and he already understood the value of organ donation and transplants, we thought, well, kids are so resilient and they're so open and accepting of things that adults seem to worry about. So it's a great age to educate kids, and while they're learning about the human body, they could learn a little more. So yeah,
it's terrific.
I'm a volunteer for the Kidney Foundation, and I get calls from patients that have just been diagnosed, have different issues with it. And I also run a support group in Scarborough once a month. We alternate afternoons and evenings, where patients come and we talk about whatever they would like to talk about in regards to kidney disease. And the nice thing about the Kidney Foundation support groups are that the fact that it's run by patients who've been through it, and we can relate to the kidney journey, the struggles that people go through. Your body is never accepting that organ as its own. Your body's always fighting against you with that organ. So there's always going to be ups and downs. It's never a perfect, once you get an organ, everything's perfect. It may seem perfect, but there are always challenges and obstacles that you need to cross over the years in regards to having a transplant. I think there are questions that you sort of say, oh, maybe that's not a question for my doctor. Maybe I'll hold it back. Maybe it's something more personal about lots of different things. And you know what? If you sit with the guys, or we sit at a meeting like this, it's usually a small group. It's not like hundreds of people, right? It's, top I think is 20 people, and then we divide it. You have a more intimate, and you get to know people more on an individual basis, and you're easier to open up about things. And when the leaders of the group, or the people who've already gone through it, open up, I find other people are more willing to open up as well and share their stories.
And it's one thing to talk to a doctor, but when you get to talk to somebody who's already been through the same thing that you're about to go through, it must give you solace somehow. You're listening to Fresh Waves. We're going to take a little break now, and when we come back, we'll continue our discussion and organ donation awareness. Stay tuned. Hi, this is Bren Masson, host of Freshwaves. April is Organ Donation Awareness Month in Canada. If you haven't already done so, please go to beadonor.ca and register as an organ donor. It only takes a second, and it's a decision you'll never regret. Be a donor. Save a life. Go to beadonor.ca.
Today I'm gonna try to change the world.
We're back on Fresh Waves. I'm your host, Bren Masson. We're talking with Lisa and Nancy. Now, one of the things we were just talking about on the break, and I hate it when people say that, you hear announcers say on this station and others all the time, well, when we were on the break, we weren't with you on the break, so the listeners are saying, who cares what you talked about? Well, we're bringing it on to the airwaves right now, is that appreciation for every day. And what about you, Nancy? Because that grief is just all-encompassing. I know people who say the first year is a complete blur. You don't even remember it. It's just awful every day.
It is. And I like to say that your world goes gray. Mm-hmm. There's no color in it. And then gradually, you get through it, and color starts to come back again, and the roses are red again. And you try to appreciate every day, too, because, my son woke up with a headache, and by a few hours later he was gone, so no one really knows what's around the corner. So I just try to live each day and be kind to people around me. And I think that's really important. I just wanted to say, I want to say that I know there's probably support groups for the recipients, but for donors, there's not, the donor families, there's not as much. But we found a lot of help through the Bereaved Families of Ontario, York Region chapter, where you do get to meet.
What is it, the Bereaved?
Bereaved Families of Ontario.
Okay.
There's a York Region chapter. The office is in Newmarket. And they have support groups, so you get to go in, groups and talk to people that have lost someone dear, maybe a child, maybe, older people, but that is a wonderful support because you are talking to people that are going through the same type of grief that you are. And that really helps a lot.
I can imagine, because all the different support groups, it's always great to talk to somebody who's going through or been where you are. And it's also nice for you, if you're several years out, to be offering some support.
It's true, yes. It's true. And you can see your own growth as you are that much ahead of someone else who's very fresh, the fresh pain, and to know that it will get better. Because at the beginning, you don't know that. You don't. Yeah.
It's a learning experience. The first year is really a learning experience. I mean, I'll never forget that. There's so many things that it doesn't matter how much you read or prepare, whatnot. That's why I'm so big on my support groups. Not only your group support, but the Kidney Foundation has one-to-one peer support for recipients, donors, everybody in regards to that. And I think it's so important that us as transplant people especially, and I can't speak for donor families, talk to somebody so we know that, this isn't unusual to happen. This may happen to you, but not me. Or there's so many different scenarios out there. And I'm just such a big person on support groups. I'm like, whoa. Now, if you asked me 22 years ago, I was not. I didn't think I needed it. I didn't see the value in them. But I think because I've been sick as well, I have other illnesses. My diabetes causes everything else. I've had to give up working, and I've had to look for my passion and what I need to do with my life. So volunteering has become like a passion for me. So the Kidney Foundation is very close to me in regards to, it's almost like a second family, I'll call them. And that's one of the I help out with the programs team, and that's one of the big things. Not only do we help financially patients that are going through struggles through blood pressure cuffs or transportation or emergency living. We're not paying for all their bills, don't get me wrong. We're trying to just help them get over that hump that they need to. Right. Maybe a medication that isn't covered. But I think the whole aspect, and starting that support group in Scarborough, it's just over a year now, is opened a lot of people's eyes to what it's all about, and we're there to help you. So.
What would you like to get out as your one thing for today? What do you want to tell people during Organ Donation Awareness Month? Nancy?
I think that some people with a profession, doctors, firemen, paramedics, they get to save lives every day in their jobs. Not many of us get to do that. And Ryan's my hero. And I think a lot of people could be heroes. They just agree to be a donor.
Even the act of signing the card makes you a hero, doesn't it?
It does. Just
Absolutely.
that's right. Being willing to donate.
Yeah.
And I something like you said earlier, but this is the version we have here. Don't take your organs to heaven, because heaven knows we need them here.
Yeah. All right.
What would I like to say? I think it's very important to speak to your family. I can't imagine, like Nancy's son, seeing his dad signing his driver's license and being aware of organ donation at such a young age. So I just want people to go home or sit down with coffee, whatever the time is most appropriate, and speak to your family and make them aware of your wishes in regards to organ donation.
Well, we're coming into a holiday season again, Easter and Passover, a time when families do get together. Quite a few families all over this country will be together. And maybe it is a time after dinner when everyone's sitting around the table and half the people are starting to fall asleep to wake up the conversation and talk about organ donation.
Very true.
Just make everybody aware. And you're not forcing your views down anyone's throat, but simply making them aware that it's an option, that there is something out there that they could do to make a bad situation better. And a bad situation on all accounts, right? It's never, ever easy to lose someone. But if in that loss you can help someone else to have a life that you wish your loved one had, isn't that a great thing? It's a difficult topic sometimes, Nancy, as I'm sure you know. I mean, kudos to you for getting up there and talking about this over and over and over again and bringing all that pain and hurt back because you want to share the gift that your son gave. Thank you. It's a tough thing to do. And for the Boulets, you know, Toby said to us when we talked to him, he said, if they want someone to speak about this, the Boulets will be there. And I think it's the same for you and many other people.
Yeah.
You're going to be there.
Definitely. It helps. It helps both ends.
It does.
Recipients and donors, families.
It does. People have said, oh, as time goes by, the hurt goes away. And it never does. The hurt never goes away.
It never goes away.
They say if you make a little drawing of the hurt being the size of a loonie, when it first happens, the circle is right close to that loonie. And it's all-encompassing. It's all part of it. The hurt doesn't go away. It stays the same size. But your circle grows larger as you go out and talk about this and share the message and make people aware of the good that it can do. So the hurt stays the same, but your circling grows. Yeah. And within that circle are a lot of people who support you and a lot of people who say thank you for everything you did and for being brave enough to make the decision to save another life when your life was so ugly at that moment.
Yes. Thank you for saying that.
Thanks for being here, everybody. Thanks for sharing your stories. If you haven't done so already, please go to beadonor.ca, sign the registry, register to be an organ donor. And hey, maybe today you're going to change the world. Thanks for joining us today on Freshwaves. Just an FYI, according to the Trillium Gift of Life Network, more than 90% of Ontarians are in favor of organ donation. However, only 1 in 3 Ontarians have registered their consent to donate. It only takes 2 minutes to register. Go to beadonor.ca and register today. Currently in Ontario, there are over 1,500 people on the waiting list for an organ transplant. Sharing your decision to donate is the best gift. You can also go to the Trillium Gift of Life Network's website, which is trilliumgiftoflife.on.ca. You can Google it, and they have lots of facts there and the answers to all kinds of questions that you might have when it comes to being an organ donor. Also, you might want to check out being a live donor. We will be having a show where we will feature a woman who has given 1 kidney and part of her liver in order to save the lives of 2 other people. Freshwaves, we really do have some fresh and exciting ideas, and this is our Organ Donation Awareness Month. If you have a story that you would like to share with us, please drop us a line. You can give me an email at bren@freshwaves.ca. And again, if you'd like to check out any of our other podcasts and stories, you can go to our YouTube channel, Fresh Waves Radio. Yesterday was Green Shirt Day in Canada. Green Shirt Day is a day dedicated to organ donation awareness and inspired by Logan Boulet. Logan Boulet passed away in 2018 in the Humboldt bus crash. Logan will always be an inspiration to millions of people in this country. Over 200,000 people signed on as organ donors after Logan passed away, and Logan made it clear to his parents before his passing that he wanted to be an organ donor should anything ever happen to him. His parents honored his wishes, and this year his sister speaks out on Green Shirt Day, honoring her brother, Logan Boulay.
Hi everyone, my name is Mariko Boulay and I'm from Lethbridge, Alberta. My brother is the incredible Logan Boulay. April 6th and April 7th, 2018 were the worst days of my family and so many other people's lives. April 7th was the day that we had to say goodbye to Logan, the person that I never thought I'd have to live without, my favorite person in the entire world. It was the worst day of my life. But April 7th also marked the day that Logan became an organ donor, and he created and started the Logan Boulay effect. It's an incredible story that came out of the worst possible thing that could have ever happened to so many people. I am proud of Logan. I am proud to be a sister. I am so incredibly proud of my family. What does Green Shirt Day mean to me? Green Shirt Day is a day for hope, for renewal, for inspiration. It's a day to remember a boy whose life was lost way too soon. It's a day to remember the Humboldt Broncos and 15 other people's lives who were lost way too soon. It's a day to remember and think about the 13 boys who are still writing their story. It's a day to sit down, think about, do I want to become an organ donor? What do I want done with my organs when I pass away? It's a day to have that kitchen table talk with your family, your loved ones, and those that are most important to you. Green Shirt Day is a day that I get to spend thinking about my brother and who he was to me. I do that every single day, but it's a special day that everyone gets to think about him. I miss him so much, but I am so incredibly proud of him, and I am proud of my family. Thank you.
It only takes 2 minutes to register. Go to beadonor.ca and register today. Thank you so much for joining us today, and we hope that you've enjoyed the show. We'll talk to you again next time on Fresh Waves.